How much do you know about braking on your motorcycle? Which brake should you use, the front or the rear brake, and when? Does it make a difference? Well, I thought we'd take a pop quiz today on MCrider and see how much you know about the subject of braking. But don't take this pop quiz lightly. If you fail this test, there will be consequences. And if you get a perfect score, you get to leave a comment below and brag about your braking expertise. But if you miss more than one question, you have to subscribe. So you'll have to click that button down below to subscribe, and then promise to watch 5 MCrider videos from start to finish right after completing this video. So the stakes are pretty high. Make sure you answer these questions carefully. If you miss all the questions and you still want to ride, you have to become a member of MCrider right away because you need all the help you can get. So the stakes are high. At the end of the quiz, you'll be bragging below, or you'll be enrolling in the after-school study group here on MCrider. So I thought it'd be helpful to look at several common situations on a motorcycle and discuss which brake to use in each situation. And you can earn bonus points if you understand why you use one brake over the other. So before we begin this pop quiz this week, I want to give you a cheat sheet. I did spring this quiz on you, right? So I want to give you a little bit of an advantage and a chance to be successful. I don't remember where I originally saw this quote, but I like it, and it's an easy way to help remember the whole front brake versus rear brake situation on a motorcycle. The quote was, "The front brake provides most of the stopping power on a motorcycle. The rear brake offers most of the control." So that quote is your cheat sheet. Keep that quote in mind as we're looking at different riding scenarios and which brake you should use. So I'll bring up a screen that shows the riding scenario. You can pause the video if you want and play along with the quiz. When you see the scenario come up, answer the question in your head or out loud if you're a little bit weird. And you can answer the front brake, rear brake, or both would be used in this scenario. And remember, you get bonus points if you understand and articulate why your answer is correct. Remember, if you get them all right, brag below. But if you miss more than one question, you'll need to stop by my desk and see me after class. Question 1, we're looking at normal stops. You're riding down the road at 35 miles per hour. You approach a red light. Should you stop with the front brake, the rear brake, or both brakes? Well, the correct answer here is both brakes, and if you've been watching MCrider for any length of time, you know that. While most of your stopping power comes from the front brake, anywhere from 70 to 90% of your stopping power, depending on which motorcycle you're riding, you want to develop the habit of using both brakes at every stop. But here's a bonus tip. For the last 5 or 10 miles per hour, I stop smoothly using just the rear brake and complete the stop using the rear brake only. So for the last 5 or 10 miles per hour, I transition from both brakes using the rear brake to help stop the motorcycle in more control. Because remember, the rear brake is our control brake on the motorcycle. This allows me to stop in a much more balanced manner, and you can try it sometime and see what I mean. I think you'll find the advantages of stopping with the rear brake will help the motorcycle be more in balance. Remember in the last question we said you should use both brakes at stoplights and normal stops in order to develop the habit of using both brakes every time you stop. Emergency braking is the reason why we develop that habit. That's why we want our instinct, our reaction to be to go to the front and the rear brake every time we need to stop. Because using both brakes to the threshold of traction is required to get the motorcycles to a stop in the shortest distance possible. At normal stops, we want to develop the habit of using the front and the rear brakes when pulling up to a stop sign, when stopping in traffic, and when stopping because a car pulled out in front of us. Using both brakes to the threshold of traction is required to get the motorcycle to a stop in the shortest distance possible. Some of you will say, well, what if I have ABS on my motorcycle? Use both brakes. What if I have linked brakes on my motorcycle? Use both brakes. What if I have drum brakes or super aggressive brakes, or your motorcycle likes to break dance? Use both brakes in an emergency stop and practice the technique of initiating braking smoothly with both brakes at every stop that you have on the motorcycle. What about when I'm in traffic and it's creeping along, say bumper to bumper at 5 miles per hour, or stop and go out on the highway, which we get here in DFW a lot, or pulling up to the gas pump, or slowly pulling across that crowded parking lot at a bike night? Which brake is best in those circumstances? Well, our control brake. Remember, the rear brake is the control brake. The front brake is our primary slowing or stopping brake. One of the ways that we maintain control and keep the motorcycle in balance at slow speeds is by using the rear brake alone at slow speeds. Abruptly squeezing the front brake at slow speeds, especially with the handlebars slightly turned, is a surefire drop of a motorcycle, especially if it's a big heavy cruiser. So use the control brake, the rear brake. The rear brake at slow speeds is going to help you maintain the motorcycle in balance and keep your chrome off the ground. So what about when it comes to making U-turns? Which brakes can help you accomplish that task? Remember, slow speed control, we use the rear brake. U-turns are no exception. In fact, dragging the rear brake or smoothly applying the rear brake through the U-turn offers a lot of balance to the rider and helps them maintain balance and control of the motorcycle throughout the U-turn. The proper technique for a U-turn is clutch in the friction zone, a little bit of throttle, minimal throttle, drag the rear brake, so light pressure on the rear brake, and turn your head, look where you want the motorcycle to go. So you find yourself stopped on a hill. You can either be facing down the hill or facing up the hill. It doesn't matter. Which brake should you use to hold the motorcycle in place? Front, rear, or both? Well, the answer here is it depends. You can use the front brake or the rear brake, so it depends on which technique you're most comfortable with or the situation that you're in. So if I'm going down a hill, or uphill, and I need to hold the motorcycle in place, a lot of times I'll use the front brake if I need to keep both feet on the ground. So I want both feet on the ground for maximum balance. I'll reach out with 2 fingers and squeeze in that front brake a little bit. As you release the clutch out into the friction zone and you start to feel it pulling forward a little bit against the brakes, you can release the brake as you continue to smoothly release the clutch and give it more throttle. Another technique, if you're on a hill and you're comfortable keeping just your left foot down, keep your foot on the rear brake. That way you can keep all 4 fingers on the throttle. You're not having to manipulate the throttle and the brake at the same time. So a lot of riders find this easier. Keep all 4 fingers on the throttle, give it a little bit of gas, release the clutch into the friction zone. When the motorcycle starts pushing against that rear brake, let off the rear brake as you continue to ease off the clutch and start out on the motorcycle. So this is one you may not have even thought about. What about getting on or off your motorcycle? Do you even use the brakes in those situations? If so, why? So I make it a habit of reaching for the right grip when I mount the motorcycle, and I squeeze in that front brake until I'm fully seated on the motorcycle. I almost always stop with the motorcycle in gear, so this is an extra precaution, extra insurance, and I use the front brake when mounting and dismounting to keep that motorcycle from rolling out of place or possibly rolling off the side stand, especially if the bike is on any kind of incline. I feel a whole lot more comfortable squeezing in that front brake before I mount or dismount the motorcycle. So what about trail braking? Which brakes do you use for trail braking? Front, rear, or both? In case you're not familiar with the concept of trail braking, I won't get into the details in this video, but you can find all the information you need at mcrider.com/trailbrake. You can learn more about the technique and trail braking and how to learn the technique and practice it on your own motorcycle. But back to our question, front, rear, or both brakes when trail braking? Well, trail braking is traditionally done with the front brake. Think about the goal of trail braking, which is to preload the front forks prior to the corner, putting more weight on the front tire, giving that front tire more traction as you lean the motorcycle into the corner. There are a lot of advantages to trail braking, and you can learn about them at that link above. But using the front brake is going to allow more forward weight to transfer on the motorcycle giving you more traction as you lean the motorcycle into the corner. But if you're not familiar with this technique, go to the link provided and learn more about it. So how'd you do on this pop quiz? If you got 100%, leave a comment below and brag a little bit. But if you missed more than one question, or you were shaky on more than one question, go to mcrider.com/watch and you'll find every video I've ever produced for MC Rider. You can sort the videos by topic. You can search the keywords of the videos. And I'm confident that you'll find at least 5 videos to help make you a better rider. Till next week, guys, thanks for playing along. This is Kevin with MC Rider, and I'll see you on the road.